All right, so I guess I'm live. That's freaky. It's real freaky to me. Um, I guess I can talk for a second about how nasty the Freemasons and Eastern Stars are, because I haven't really made it to that point yet. Um, I had a grandfather figure, grandpa type dude. I don't really know who, I don't really know if the people that pretended to be my parents my whole life are really my parents anymore. Um, because I took a DNA test and my heritage and I guess the Postal Service worked with my sister, who is a child trafficking federal agent. Um, they let her work with them to switch my DNA out with hers, um, because they, whatever my true identity is, they apparently have me marked as deceased already. Um, so like from the beginning, the chick I thought was my mom, my nasty motherly unit, her name was Melinda. She had a dad named Randall Logston. Randy Logston, the Freemasons in Louisville, Kentucky would have known him. The Freemasons in Amarillo, Texas would have known him. People really liked my grandpa Randy. They really, really looked up to him, and people really favored him. Um, I know Larry Elmore is an artist for Dungeons and Dragons. He's like one of my uh, that motherly unit person's cousins. It was her, so it would have been like the person who was at least pretending to be my mom. I don't know if she's my real mom or not. Whoever that is, Melinda. Um, her dad was Randy. He passed away. They said that he fell against a doorknob when he was 73. But my other grandpa also passed away at 73. So it was almost like somebody made sure that each grandpa would pass away at 73. But like I said, I don't even know if those are my real grandparents. But for the life that I lived and for the person who I was, those were my grandparents. And Randall Logston, he was a preacher at some point, I guess. He married a chick named Teresa, who they would call Pauline. He would tell Teresa that her name was too immature to be the wife of a preacher, and he gave her the name Pauline instead, which is a really like old churchy preacher's wife name, I guess. Um, but those parents, Pauline and Randy, were like my scary grandparents. Grandparents, not parents, but those were my scary grandparents. And my grandpa was a Freemason, and I believe that before he died, he was a 33rd degree Freemason. He may have even been a 33rd degree Freemason before he did this like weird inheritance thing with my cousin and I when we were kids. So like getting into that, my mom was like, your grandpa is going to take you out into the country with your cousin, and he's going to do some things with you, and he's going to make some decisions, and I need you to really be alert and aware, and please pay attention and do your best, because I really need you to be chosen for whatever it was. She wouldn't tell me what it was. Um, and So my weird Freemason grandpa, who had already done weird things like pulling me in and out of the trunk and, moving me around, other kids around, and weird crying kids in the back seat who I didn't know. Um, there was already some weird stuff going on, but I just went with it like it was normal because I had nothing else to compare it to. Um, and that particular grandpa was really strict and stern. He had a really old school upbringing himself. Um, uh, I'm pretty sure that he was brought up in Louisville, Kentucky, but I'm not entirely sure. I was starting to say that Larry Elmore's mother was the sister of Randall Logston's mother. Okay. And I think her name was, she went by Beatrice. I want to say Beatrice Whitehair or something like that. I don't know. I'm getting that wrong probably at the end there, but it just like came back all of us. I don't know if that was really it or not, but um, so my my grandpa Randy would pick me up and then pick my little cousin up, and her name is April. This cousinly person. I really, really liked her. She was like my best friend as a little kid, but then after we became adults and stuff, or somewhere in our teen years and adults, she was either manipulated out of being friendly with me, or having any kind of relationship with me. Everyone in my life, all of my relatives and any friends I had, they would all be told not to interact with me, not to build any relationship with me or anything. And if I was around anybody, that person was supposed to be tormenting and abusive to me. Like even whenever I took care of my little brother Sean as an adult, it was, he had been put up to being tormenting and abusive in really subtle ways that, a lot of people wouldn't have caught on to. But they had him doing really evil, weird stuff. Not that I'm necessarily trying to talk smack on Sean. I know that he has some issues. So even though he's one of the bad guys, I'm really not trying to do that, because Sean specifically is a really bad victim, is a really extreme victim too. Even though he's a perp, he's also a victim in this situation, and is really an extreme victim. And I'm shocked that everyone just let that go on as long as it did, and that they're just continuing to let it go on. Like, knowing how badly that kid was abused, no one in the entire situation has had any mercy on the kid, and that's really sad. Most people are brought up like being able to pick out clothes, or throughout life, like, here's a makeover, or somebody shows you some kind of concern or attention. Sean never got that throughout his entire life. No one ever did that for Sean. No one ever even taught Sean how to shave. So even though he's a bad guy, he's somebody that people should probably, uh, I don't know. I'm not trying to be mean or cruel as far as he goes necessarily. And if I did want to, then I mean, whatever. I was cruel to that kid his whole life, so I don't really need to do it anymore, Um, maybe not his whole life, but until we were in our early adulthood or somewhere along there. Maybe even until I was like 30, dude. Like, I was kind of mean to my brother. But on the same hand, he was being asked to do dumb shit, and he was doing dumb shit, and I was catching him up in it, and it really sucked because I really loved my brother. There were a lot of these people who I really loved who were asked to do dumb shit, and it made them unlovable, ultimately. But I'm not trying to tell certain people that I'm not ever going to love them again. You know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't want my kids to know that or think that. I didn't mean it like that. You know what I mean? I certainly wouldn't want my kids to think that. But on the same hand, they also have to understand, everybody has to go through the process of understanding that what they've done is wrong, even if government agents or agencies or cops or CPS workers or healthcare professionals or judges or anybody else asked you to do it. If you knew that what they were asking you to do was a lie and it was wrong, and that they wanted you to hurt your mom, or whatever, that if anybody asks anybody to do anything and it involves fucking hurting someone, the answer should obviously be no. the military is quite capable of taking out any targets who are honestly threats here in the United States. Obviously, civilians, single mothers and fathers who are being pushed out into the streets and treated like trash and their kids kidnapped, those are not going to be the threats that anyone really has to worry about. And it's really gross that that's how you guys are. All right. But as I was talking about my grandpa picked my cousin and I up. My cousin was someone who I loved very much, who the Freemasons and everyone else instructed to not love me and not have anything to do with me the same way that they do with everyone. And my grandpa told us that he had to choose, or no, he didn't tell us that. He just said, we started walking out into the woods and stuff, and he had us wait there for a second, and he went ahead of us, and then he came back to us and got us, and he said, I really want to make one of you guys a staff, a walking stick or cane or whatever, and so I need for you guys to find the right stick. I need you to find the right walking stick, a just right one. And so we kind of started to look around, but he didn't say it like that. He said it in just a certain way. And this is apparently, I guess it was some kind of pseudo magical Freemasonic like ritual type thing or whatever for selecting whoever was the true spiritual chosen heir or something like that, heiress or whatever. And so there's bloodline heirs, but that there can also be a spiritual heirs. And well, I didn't know it at the time that I might not really have been this bitch's daughter or whatever, or that I might not really be this dude's granddaughter. I still don't know because the government doesn't want me to know. If the government wanted me to know my own identity, somebody would have stepped up before now and people wouldn't be switching my DNA out. It's pretty drastic and dramatic, the links that everyone has gone to and gone through and everything. But so just seeing what my options are on live, because I only went live like one other time. And so anyways, my cousin starts kind of messing around. She's like, here's a stick, here's a stick, here's a stick or whatever. And I can tell that, like, if my cousin got the same instruction that I got from her mom, she wasn't really doing it right. And my grandpa was actually getting frustrated because, like, what we went out there to do was supposed to be a really kind of big deal. Like, and if my cute little cousin was just like being goofy, like, here's a stick, oh, you're gonna turn this into a walking stick and all this stuff, and he's telling her, like, no, I'm really serious, you're gonna have to find this walking stick, you know what I mean, or a stick that's good enough. And he's like trying to tell her, and she's like, here's one, you know what I mean, and she's all goofy, and finally, like, he starts to get really frustrated with her, and he's just like, shh, never mind, you know. But we continue to walk and stuff, and I looked down. I remember looking over at a distance, and there's all these sticks laying underneath a tree, but this one stick stands out to me, and I just feel it. I just almost hear it or see it, and it's just like, that's the right stick. And I walk right over to it, and I pick it up, and I carry it over to him, and he is like just in shock. He's like almost mortified, like, you know, I'm like, here's the right stick, you know, and he's like, oh my God, that really is the right stick. And apparently he had already taken a stick and set it out, you know what I mean, in the vicinity, and we hadn't even walked past it yet or to it yet, And I picked out that very same stick that he'd laid there. So that was really, really weird. And he was super freaked out by it. And I was like, I was like, really like, oh, yay, I got something. I don't know what it is. But he was like, all right, cool. You got this cane or this staff. And to me, the cane or the staff that he made was symbolic of whatever I secretly got and or whatever that I didn't know about yet. You know what I mean? And whatever it was, I didn't even care what it was because to me, I'd done something really cool with my grandpa, and that would be like the only time something like that would happen. And that grandpa wasn't that cool, anyways. That grandpa ultimately, according to the motherly unit, and according to the motherly unit who brought me up a little bit, he was really abusive to her and the other girls. Now, as to whether or not that's true, I can't say because my aunt did not confirm that. When I mentioned to my aunt that my mom told me how abusive my grandpa was, my aunt tried to say that that didn't really happen. My aunt tried to say that she was never abused. She didn't know what I was talking about and that my mom was crazy. So, and then there were other women, there were other aunts and an uncle or two or something. The uncles, my mom did say, were also like molestery. So I never got to meet them. And then, or I did meet one of them, and he was kind of weird, and I left because I wasn't trying to hang out at my grandparents' house like that. I showed up to try to meet with Pauline for a second, but she wasn't there. Um, and that was before I left Amarillo, like while I still had a car and stuff. It's been a good while back. So he made for me this, like, he took that stick and he carved LaDonna in it in all caps, and it says November 23rd, 1991. Is that what it says on it? It was carved into it. Anyways, it was stolen along with all my pictures and everything I owned while I was in Taos, New Mexico. My Fed sisters and Fed family and shit and other chomas and fucktards, they stole that shit. So I was really, really sad to lose that staff too. Like, I was attacked and abused and made homeless and went through all kinds of horrible shit throughout my entire life. And then, you know what I mean? I was still able to keep a hold of this little blue dress that was made for me and that staff that was made for me. I held onto that stuff for over 36 years until, or over 35, 36 years until I was put in the human hunting games and hunted down, and those items were taken. Everything was taken. Um, and I think that I can really tell by the fact that, this is the second time that I've gone live. I've been on here for 20 minutes. And I know that I'm not popular or anything. I know that no one's ever showed up to any of my lives before. And you know what I mean? I'm just kind of starting out with all of this. But it, it almost kind of backs up the idea that I have that, like, probably over 50 of my subscribers are actually fake, fake, users, fake subscribers, fake channels, or whatever, duplicated fake channels or something like that. That's kind of weird. But also people who aren't subscribers should be able to just stumble upon lives as well. But I understand that mine's, I'm just like a crappy person who needs to be well hidden. So, or whatever, according to the CIA. Okay. So, yeah. So I got this staffy thing, and that was cool. And that was one of the last times that I would really be allowed to hang out with my cousin, with my little cousin April. All right, add a question and answer sticker, a talent you wish you had. Weird. Okay. At one point, so my dad and my stepmom would hook up when my stepmom was 19. My dad was like, I don't know, in his almost 30 or something like that. And they were both affiliated with the Freemasons and Eastern Stars. They probably gave her to him just from the Eastern Star batch of hoes and shit. The Freemasons and the Eastern Stars end up being some of my worst pursuers in the human hunting games, and they have been an oppressive force over my entire life. They are stretched throughout all the communities throughout the United States, and they have helped traffic me through the human hunting games for the last 5 years. They also helped me be isolated, oppressed, abused, tortured, and everything else over the course of my lifetime. And at this point, I am a legitimate lifelong slave because of all this shit, and because there's no one for me to tell other than YouTube. I mean, there's literally YouTubers right now who are like, people are going to try to take it. People are going to try to take you out again. They're saying it right live on YouTube, and no one's doing anything about it. And part of the reason why is because the entire US is run by this secret society called the Freemasons and the little fucking whore hookers, the Eastern Stars. And their jobs are to molest little kids, have women raped and impregnated by their fucking relatives, I guess. And their jobs are also to just raise just complete corruption over all the land. Hang on a second. There was a couple other things that their jobs were. I can't forget those. Oh, their jobs are to basically get every family affiliated with them to offer up tributes of their own family members to the demons and the demonic forces they all worship, apparently. They do a lot of nasty sexual style magic on. They have different like magic rituals and stuff like that they perform on little kids, babies, teenagers, adults, for every kind of any kind of that's part of their great wealth of knowledge. That's part of their great wealth of occult knowledge is that they just molest and sacrifice whoever they want. Yeah. So there was one time that I was in Amarillo, whenever I was really little, that I was at a Freemasonic meeting in Amarillo, Texas, where everybody was sitting in these metal chairs, and we were listening to a guy who was Santa Claus. It was Santa Claus at a podium, and he was talking to us. I don't know what he was talking to us about, but there was a crap load of us there. There was at least 20 or 30 people in this room with these fold-out chairs, these metal chairs everywhere. And it was me, Randy, and Pauline. And I don't know if my little brother was there or not, but Santa Claus straight got shot. Santa Claus super got shot at that, and everybody got up, and they were freaking out and screaming, and all these metal chairs, everyone was tripping over these metal chairs. Everybody was getting really, really hurt. And I've never been able to find an article about that or anything. And then like later on, whenever I would bring it, like afterwards, when I would bring it up to my grandparents, I would be like, oh my gosh, Santa Claus got shot. Is he okay? Did he make it? You know what I mean? And they would be like, oh no, Santa Claus didn't get shot. You didn't see that. You can never tell anyone. And so that was also something that my family who are affiliated with the Eastern Stars and Freemasons would do a lot of. They would try to like CIA rewrite your memory or whatever, rewrite the history of what you know and what you're allowed to say and shit. Um, just so fucked up. There was another time that after my stepmom got married to my dad. My stepmom's name is Denise. Her name was Denise Cross. I'm pretty sure she's still married to my dad. She may not be. Denise Cross of Amarillo, Texas. She used to be Denise Green. She had her dad's name, Don, is or was Don. I don't know if he's still alive. He was trash. Her mom was trash too, Lana. She's probably dead, or I think she's dead. If not, she should be soon. I mean, they were all trash. They're all really abusive, really ungodly and abusive. They really had a horrible attitude, and the attitude, it just poured out of them, and just the horrible abusive life probably that my stepmother lived, as she was taught to be trash like them. And I'm not sure how they were affiliated with the Freemasons and Eastern Stars. Her dad probably was a Freemason because he was in the pipe fitters union or whatever, and all them union dudes were Freemasons and shit. But there was this really great big auditorium, and my stepmom had me put on the rose-colored flower girl dress that she either bought or had made specially for her wedding. And she made sure that all of her bridesmaids and the flower girl were wearing these rose-colored dresses. And so I was in this auditorium with these other Eastern Star girls. I'm not going to call them hoes, because a lot of these people I was in the auditorium with, these were kids and teenagers and young adults who could have been victims of God knows what, you know what I mean? But just this huge auditorium, and I was the only one who was wearing this rose-colored dress, and I was put like on one side, if you can imagine it being like an oval-shaped football stadium or something like that, with everybody lining the whole thing, and like here I am, on the side of the oval, in the smack in the middle, where for some reason I'm being presented, but no one says anything good to me. No one congratulates me. I'm different than everyone else. And man, to my recollection, I think that everyone else that was in that room, in that weird like auditorium football stage looking area, I swear, I think that they were all wearing black and red, and that I was the oddball out of all of them. And I remember just sitting there really calm and just um just kind of sitting there, and I had all of these people staring at me, and they were acknowledging me, but it wasn't like necessarily a good thing. Like I was saying, like no one was talking to me. They didn't treat me like I was any different or any special than the other. Well, they did treat me like I was different, but they didn't treat me like I was special. And I thought, because I went through that experience, that I would be, that they might involve me more. And she was talking about how she was brought up in the Eastern Stars, and telling me that she wanted me to be in the rainbows and the Eastern Stars and yada yada. And then we went through that thing, and then I believe I never went back. They never took me back or had me around any of those people. They instead, they kept me really isolated for the most part, unless they knew who I was talking to and could get to them and manipulate them to do whatever my parents wanted. So from the time I was really little, and a teenager and stuff, the only people who were allowed around me had to be, talked to first and given a certain script. They had a certain role that they were allowed to play, and they weren't allowed to play anything other than that role. And it was really easy to get people to go along with what my parents and others wanted them to do. And if they didn't, um, if they acted like they weren't going to comply, all that they would have to do is send like a really beautiful chick or beautiful chicks, or, I mean, whatever that person was into, they would send them to whoever, and they would be able to use, whoever to either get that person to get away from me, or get that person to betray me while they did whatever they were asked to do. Um, so, uh, whatever potential inheritance, and whenever I was picking out the stick, I didn't know what an inheritance was. I would have known what a trust fund was. I mean, I had to have been like 4 or 5 years old or something like that. Wait, was I 6? I mean, I have a birth certificate that says that I was born in 1985, but if people are switching out my DNA and people are going through all this trouble to hide my identity from me and have already given my identity to a celebrity or whatever is going on, um, lost my train of thought there, but whatever. So I didn't know what an inheritance was or a trust or anything like that. I was just trying to, be the winner. You know what I mean? But as I got older, um, I would think about that, and I would wonder, like, did he select me for an inheritance? Did he select me as the heiress to something? And if so, um, was it just from their private lives, or was this some kind of Freemasonic inheritance? I have no idea. I don't even know if there's things like that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if there's inheritances or trusts or whatever that are tied up into the Freemason cult or whatever. But whatever mine might have been has apparently already been used to fund a child trafficking ring, which I have been trying to bust for like a while now, or help bust. But no one wants it to get busted because it's the global child trafficking network that all of the big tech companies and politicians and celebrities and world leaders are involved in. And so, it's kind of hard to unmask that one, even though it's kind of already been unmasked. Um, the world seems to be very much divided up between people who are pedophiles and people who aren't. And it is leading to a civil war. And anyways, the I've had Eastern stars as I was being trafficked and pushed around the United States, being persecuted as a Christian. I would have Eastern Star whores walk into like the truck stop bathrooms with me and be like uh, filming me while I was washing my hands and stuff like that. They've been filming me across the nation. Like, they'll just come up and shove their cameras in my face, and or they'll drive by in cars and film me and stuff like that. You wouldn't imagine the people who have filmed me. And it's not just the Freemasons and Eastern Stars. That has to do with some shit that's like going on the dark web and other things. But I specifically know that there have been fucking Eastern Star whores who have done that. Um, and I think that at one point there were like 3 or 4 of them at a time raising their cameras at me and shit in stores and stuff. And literally the first thing that came to mind was Eastern Stars. It was like God was downloading it right to me. He was like, those are the fucking Eastern Stars harassing you right now. Which is shocking to me, you know, because like I'm not in the fucking Eastern Stars. I'm not in anything. Um, my my family offered me up, I guess, as a tribute, as a Freemasonic tribute sacrifice or whatever. So I have like a really bad view of the Freemasons that no one will be able to change. And I hope they get shut down. Honestly, they're a criminal organization that need shut down. It would never be okay to perform rituals on civilians or to select the firstborn out of every family for sacrifice. So anyway, something else that I heard was, remember Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, before they put Kash Patel in, who is doing not any better at all than Christopher Wray was. Okay, and then they took William Burns out of the fucking CIA director, as they removed him as CIA director. I don't even know who the fuck they put in his place, but he ain't any fucking better either, obviously. Woo! But those two directors had to be removed because, now this is what I heard, they had to be removed because of their dealings with the sacrifices of the firstborn throughout the nation and their compliance with it. That they know that it's been going on generation after generation, that these people are being, you know, put in the what they call the Hunger Games or the human hunting games, as they're made tributes by Freemasons and Eastern Stars. I had one person watching me for a second, probably one of my ops. I can't believe someone actually came on my live. Okay. But anyway, I don't know if I don't know. I'm getting this feeling like I should say this. Like, it's like this feeling like that someone affiliated with the Freemasons tried to look for me or something like that. That maybe they were going to give me something that had to do with my grandfather. Um, uh, I mean, I don't know. Um, but if I was offered up as a tribute, then why would they? You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I did hear that Christopher Wray and William Burns were fired, basically let go, because well, they had done a lot, but they'd also been involved with the sales and trafficking of civilians. Um, so that's been really crappy. Someone and then I heard that I was also sold into DNA slavery or whatever. That's like a whole other subject, but um, it sort of also ties into the Freemasons because they apparently keep track of certain bloodlines, and so the bones of Jesus's mother Mary are available, and the DNA has been taken from them as well as other families related to Jesus. The DNA of Jesus himself has been taken from the Sudarium of Oviedo. Oh shit, I'm saying it wrong. I shouldn't even try to say it. from the sudarium, and from the shroud. And then the DNA from the disciple Mary Magdalene was also collected because her skull and hand are actually being kept in a cathedral in France. So, you had all of these officials and organizations like the Freemasons and a whole bunch of other people. But the Freemasons especially have to do with not just the Freemasons, but other secret societies as well, have to do with keeping track of specific bloodlines. And of course, the bloodlines of people like Mary Magdalene or any of the disciples or Jesus's family or Jesus himself would be pretty important for everybody to keep up with. And what may have happened, unfortunately, is the Freemasons and other secret societies may have been hiding. It's like they may have been hiding the heirs to certain bloodlines, which might have been okay in theory, but they were severely ritualistically abusing them down through the generations, I guess. So, and then also there's this story about the missing boys from the Tower of London, and I don't know if that has anything to do with what could be the bloodlines of, like, so there's supposed to be a bunch of heirs and heiress and all that out here, and even the people connected to royal families and bloodlines, and the different governments and organizations and secret societies are keeping that extra secret, and have slowly begun to swap certain people out, people who they know are due certain inheritances or are of certain royal bloodlines and things like that. They're like taking them and replacing them with one of theirs. You know what I mean? Like, I can't just let I can't just let anybody get that shit. I have to, I want somebody that I choose, that I like, to get all that shit, not the stranger who it's due to. You know what I mean? Not some person who's, survived all these, you know what I mean, all this heinous whatever that's been bestowed over their bloodline as they've been held captive by whatever weirdos know who their true identity is, whatever. Anyways, I pretty much said enough about the Freemasons. I should probably stop while I'm ahead. All right, cool. Peace. I don't know when this will actually show up, but I have to figure out how to end it. And I don't understand. Okay, just hit the okay. All right, peace.